What if you could build your home anywhere in America, answering to no one but yourself? The American dream used to be simple. Buy a piece of dirt, pick up a hammer, and build a home. But in 2025, that dream is being strangled by red tape. Between impact fees, mandatory architectural reviews, energy efficiency mandates, and overzealous inspectors, the government effectively owns your house before you even lay the foundation. But what if I told you there are still places where the government steps back? Places where you don't need a permit to build a deck, a barn, or even your primary residence. We aren't talking about lawless anarchy. We are talking about the last remaining strongholds of property rights in the United States. The list is shrinking. Just this year, Illinois, once a haven for rural builders, enforced a mandatory statewide baseline code, effectively removing itself from the conversation. But 5 states still hold the line. Today, we are doing a deep dive into the top 5 states with no statewide residential building codes. We are going to look at the laws, the loopholes, the specific counties you should target, and most importantly, the hidden gotchas that could ruin your build if you aren't careful. This is your 2025 guide to building freely. Before we start the countdown, we need to clarify what no building code actually means, because this is where 90% of people get confused. When we say a state has no building code, we specifically mean they have no statewide mandatory residential code for single-family dwellings in unincorporated areas. Here is the hierarchy you need to understand. Level 1 is the state. Some states, like California or Florida, force every single inch of land to adhere to strict rules. Level 2 is the county. In no-code states, the state government tells the counties, it's up to you. Level 3 is the municipality, cities, and towns. Listen to me closely. If you buy a vacant lot inside the city limits of any town in America, there will be codes, there will be zoning, there will be inspections. Our list today applies strictly to unincorporated land, land outside of city boundaries. If you were looking to build a subdivision, this video isn't for you. But if you were looking to build a homestead, a barn dominium, an earthship, or a tiny home on your own terms, these are the places you need to be looking. Coming in at number 5 is Arizona. Now, this might surprise you. If you've ever tried to build in Phoenix or Scottsdale, you know they have some of the strictest water and heat mitigation codes in the country.
But Arizona is a state of massive contradictions. While the cities are strict, the rural counties operate under a different philosophy. Arizona law allows counties to offer what is called an owner-builder opt-out. This is a game changer for the DIY community. In specific counties, if you are the owner of the land and you are acting as your own contractor, you can sign a waiver. You are essentially telling the county, I am building this myself, I understand the risks, and I absolve the county of liability. The 2 most famous examples are Cochise County and Greenlee County. Cochise County has become a mecca for alternative architecture. We're talking about earthships, straw bale construction, and super adobe domes. Because of the opt-out provision, you can build experimental structures here that would get you laughed out of a permit office in most other states. However, there are restrictions. Usually, you need a minimum amount of acreage, often 4 acres or more, to qualify for the opt-out. They want to ensure you aren't building a fire hazard right next to a neighbor. The catch in Arizona? It's not the building code, it's the resources. Many of these no-code areas are completely off-grid. No water lines, no power lines. You are drilling deep wells and installing solar. And while the county might not inspect your framing, they will inspect your septic system. In the desert, protecting the water table is religion. But if you can handle the heat and the isolation, Arizona offers a unique legal pathway for owner-builders. Number 4 takes us to the other side of the country. West Virginia is a fascinating case study in how laws versus enforcement works. Technically, the state has adopted the International Building Code, IBC, and the International Residential Code, IRC. On paper, it looks regulated. But here is the reality. West Virginia legislation allows local jurisdictions, counties and municipalities, to decide whether or not to establish a building code enforcement agency. If a county decides not to create a building department, then there is nobody to issue permits and nobody to conduct inspections. It is an opt-out system by omission. In many rural West Virginian counties, particularly in the deep, jagged terrain of the Appalachians, there simply isn't the budget or the manpower to send inspectors up 4 miles of gravel switchbacks to check on your framing spacing. This makes West Virginia incredible for recreational cabins and hunting lodges. The land is affordable, the taxes are relatively low, and if you are outside of the major towns like Charleston or Morgantown, you are largely left alone.
However, there is one major exception you cannot ignore here: the floodplain ordinance. Because West Virginia is mountainous, water funnels into the valleys fast. Even in counties with 0 building codes, you almost always need a floodplain determination permit. If you build in a flood zone without approval, you won't just face fines. You might physically lose your house in the next big rain. But if you stay on the high ground, West Virginia remains one of the freest places in the East to build your cabin in the woods. Number 3 is the ultimate frontier: Alaska. If you want to be truly free of government oversight, this is the place. But it comes with a price tag that has nothing to do with money. Alaska operates differently than the lower 48. They don't just have counties, they have boroughs. And a huge portion of the state falls into what is called the unorganized borough. This is an area larger than the state of Texas. In these zones, there is no county government. There is no zoning board. There is no building department. You don't get a building permit because there is literally no office to give you one. The state of Alaska enforces a fire marshal code for commercial and multifamily buildings. But for a single-family residential cabin in the unorganized borough, you are on your own. But here is why Alaska is number 3 and not number 1. The environment acts as the world's strictest building inspector. In Missouri or Texas, if you build a flimsy wall, you might get a draft. In Alaska, if you don't understand vapor barriers, thermal bridging, and snow loads, the house will rot from the inside out or collapse on top of you within 3 years. You have total legal freedom here, but that freedom assumes you are competent enough to survive. There are no safety nets. If you build it wrong, help is not coming. It is the ultimate test of the builder's skill. Number 2 is the Lone Star State, Texas. Texas holds a legendary status for property rights, and for good reason. The state government takes a very dim view of regulation. Under Texas state law, counties are significantly restricted in their ability to impose building codes on residential properties in unincorporated areas. This is the key to Texas, the ETJ, or extraterritorial jurisdiction. Cities in Texas have a buffer zone around them where they can still enforce some rules. But once you cross that invisible line into true unincorporated land, the requirement for building permits usually vanishes. This freedom has led to the explosion of the barn dominion trend. People buy 10 acres, throw up a massive metal pole barn, which is quick and cheap, and finish the inside as a luxury home. No framing inspections, no foundation checks. But Texas has a massive asterisk you need to know about: the coast. If you are in a Tier 1 coastal county, places like Galveston or Corpus Christi, you are subject to the Texas Department of Insurance windstorm regulations. You cannot get wind or hail insurance without a WPI 8 certificate, which requires strict inspections. And like everywhere else, Texas is strict on septic. The OSSF, On-Site Sewage Facility Permit, is mandatory statewide. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality does not mess around with wastewater. But if you can pass the perk test for your septic, the rest of the house is your business. And finally, the number 1 state for building freedom in 2025, Missouri.
Why Missouri? Because while other states have loopholes, Missouri has a culture of non-regulation. It is a home rule state, and the state government has refused to adopt a statewide residential building code, leaving it entirely to the counties. While the major cities have strict codes, dozens and dozens of rural counties have absolutely zero building codes. We are talking about counties in the Ozarks and the northern farmlands where you do not need a permit for the structure, the foundation, the plumbing, or the insulation. The reason Missouri beats Texas for the top spot is the cost of land and the lack of ETJ complexity. In rural Missouri, land is still accessible to the average person. You can buy 5 acres of wooded land for a fraction of what it costs in the West, and you can build a cabin, a shouse, shop house, or a traditional frame home without ever meeting a government official. The only person you usually need to talk to is the county health department for your septic permit. Once that's stamped, the county largely steps back. There is no windstorm requirement like Texas and no permafrost danger like Alaska. It is the most temperate, accessible, and legally free place to build in America right now. Now, before you pack your truck and move to Missouri or West Virginia, we have to talk about the fine print. These are the 3 things that can sink your project even in a no-code state. Number 1, the utility company. The county might not care how you wire your house, but the power company does. If you want to connect to the grid, the electric cooperative will almost always require a meter loop inspection. They won't hook up power if your panel looks like a fire hazard. They effectively act as the electrical inspector in the absence of the county. Number 2, financing. Banks love building codes because codes protect their asset. It is incredibly difficult to get a traditional construction loan in a non-building code jurisdiction. The bank can't verify the quality of the asset. This means most no-code builds are cash projects. If you don't have the cash, you might not be building. And number 3, insurance and resale. You can build a house without code, but can you insure it? Many major carriers will deny coverage to self-built homes in unincorporated areas without a certificate of occupancy. And when you go to sell, you are limiting your buyer pool. You can only sell to cash buyers or people using niche financing because FHA and VA loans often require inspections that you can't provide. Building without codes is the ultimate expression of freedom, but it is also the ultimate expression of responsibility. When you strip away the regulations, you become the inspector. You become the safety officer. You become the guarantor of your family's safety. These 5 states, Arizona, West Virginia, Alaska, Texas, and Missouri, offer you the canvas. But the painting is up to you. Whether you build a masterpiece or a disaster depends entirely on your preparation, your budget, and your skills. So which of these 5 would you choose for your homestead? Are you brave enough for Alaska, or are you looking at the freedom of the Missouri Ozarks? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you found value in this deep dive, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel against the algorithm, and subscribe for more content on real estate, off-grid living, and the pursuit of freedom. Thanks for watching, and happy building.